Hey, I'm Daniel Ruiz-Tyson. I'm the host of When Shorts Were Short, the podcast that covers the narrow period in football history, 1954 to 92, when shorts were, well, short. And I'm trying to expand the show. I'm trying to create a little community by trying out this Discord channel. And the idea is that I'll be able to stick subjects up on that channel, and listeners, writers, maybe even ex professionals eventually might be able to contribute to the channel. People might be able to offer their thoughts on the latest episodes, perhaps aspects of that episode or a guest's career that I may not have addressed in the way they wanted me to address it. Not all negative stuff. Let's look at the positives too. I'd actually recorded a brilliant video on Discord when I logged on there. Well, when I set the channel up earlier today, not realizing that it's actually, I think, my limited understanding at the moment, it's a live feed, so I need people on there to be watching. Otherwise, the video isn't saved. So I've lost what was a great video. I was able to blur my background on there. You can't see the mess behind me. I don't even know what's on that shelf. I know what's on the other shelf on the other side of this room. I don't know what's on the shelf behind me. Anyway, here's the thing. Here's what's going to be my first topic up for discussion once you guys hopefully start signing up to the When Shorts Were Short Discord channel. Players, individuals that transformed a club's history, obviously falling within that 54 to 92 period. I'm going to make 4 nominations. 2 I don't think you'll disagree with. 1 you may take issue with. The other one, certainly a group of fans belonging to that club would I think, agree with me. So the first player that I'm nominating, Bobby Collins, who moved from Everton to Leeds in 1962, dropped down a division to be part of Don Revie's new Leeds. They were struggling in the second division, but they had this collection of gifted young players. And Bobby Collins' impact on that group of young players, and basically he was one of the hardest players around too, and that certainly rubbed off on that Leeds team. And for the next 12, 13 years they would be one of this country's, well, they were arguably this country's best team and one of the best teams this country has ever seen. So that's my first nomination, Bobby Collins from Everton to Leeds 1962. The second one, I'll be surprised if anyone disagrees with this, Dave McKay, who moved from Tottenham to Derby in 1968. Derby in the second division. They were up in the first division and should have arguably won the title in 1970, I think. I don't think that might have been the greatest Everton team, perhaps. Leeds will obviously wonder why they didn't win the title that year when they were challenging on so many fronts. Well, there's your answer there. But Dave McKay, again, his impact on that young Derby team under Brian Clough and Peter Taylor. And while he was gone, by the time they won their first title in 1972, there's no doubt that his impact was a huge one on that group of players. And of course, he returned to the baseball ground as manager to win their second title in 1975. My third one will probably be the most contentious of the lot, but I'm nominating it based on something I heard Johnny Giles say on his Off the Ball podcast some years ago. He was talking about Kevin Keegan being the trigger for that Liverpool period of domination that lasted almost 2 decades. Now, of course, you might say, well, Shankly had a very strong side in the first half of his reign. Yes, he did. That 60s side cannot be underestimated, but from 66 to 73, they won nothing. That FA Cup quarter-final defeat to Watford in 1970, I think it was the quarter-finals. Finally, Shankly was persuaded by that result that he needed to be ruthless. He needed to break up that team, and he did. Kevin Keegan arrived a year later. If I remember rightly, he arrived in the week that Arsenal beat Liverpool in the 71 FA Cup final to secure the double. But Giles's contention was that Kevin Keegan was the trigger for that final outstanding Shankly team that Bob Paisley was able to build on, a team whose foundations lasted into the early 90s. And my last one, I don't think fans of that club will disagree, Andy Gray, who moved from Wolves to Everton in 1983, late 83, spent less than 2 seasons at Everton. You could argue that Peter Reid, you could also put him in the same bracket, but Peter Reid was injured for most of his first calendar year at Everton. But Andy Gray is the player that former Everton players of that era usually reference. His form in that 84-85 season was incredible. We have, of course, had former Everton skipper Kevin Ratcliffe on the show, and he made a tongue-in-cheek remark that Andy Gray probably wasn't a regular in that Everton team, and I think there's something in that. But once Adrian Heath got injured in that challenge by Brian Marwood in the Sheffield Wednesday game in late '84, Andy Gray came in. And Everton never looked back, and his impact on that side, even though 6 months later he was shipped out by Howard Kendall, as he brought Gary Lineker in, I would put Andy Gray in that quartet. He really transformed the club. Perhaps Kevin Keegan didn't quite transform Liverpool. Perhaps I think Highway, Clements, those kind of young players were already in the side. There was a young Emlyn Hughes in the team. So, I'm prepared to accept Kevin Keegan may not belong in that bracket. But I think there's a strong argument for saying Andy Gray does. Anyway, I've posted the Discord link, the invite link on Twitter and the Shorts Were Short Facebook page. It's also on LinkedIn. You'll find it there. If you're a football writer, if you're an ex-professional, if you're a journalist, if you want to contribute, do please sign up, and hopefully we can do something with this channel. And follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Shorts Were Short.